Hi, everybody! Welcome, welcome. I am joined, in case you can't see with your eyes, but I assume you can see. I'm joined by my friend Kat. Hey, Kat.
Hey, Kelsey.
We are talking Stephen King. Stephen King. We're talking to Stephen King. No, we're talking Stephen King again for the second to last
No,
time.
can you believe it?
No.
I cannot.
So when we started off this project, if you guys are new here, this has been a whole year-long project for us. And even though we're in December, we still have one more book to talk about, which will take place in January of
Right.
next year. But this project has been going on for a whole year now. And The Dead Zone was our 11th read.
I know. I cannot
Well,
believe
actually, technically, it might actually be more because we've read some short stories.
Right. That's true.
So,
but like our 11th month of reading
Stephen King. So, guys, yes, welcome. We are going to be talking Dead Zone today, the book, as well as the movie. And Kat, I got to admit to you, I forgot to tell you this. I didn't watch the episode, but you can spoil if you need to.
Actually, yes, that's fine. I mean,
I ran out of time.
I know. I think that's going to be fine.
So, yes, Kat also watched the first episode.
Just the first one.
Okay, the first episode of Dead Zone. Did you like it?
I did. I was pleasantly surprised. And I'm not sure if part of the reason I like it is because I like Anthony Michael Hall. He's one of my favorite actors.
I like him too. Yes, he's wonderful.
But it's also, and we'll get to it when we talk about it, but there's things about it that I kind of liked a little bit better than the movie.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, I want to hear this. So let me kind of start off by saying, anybody in the comments, drop what you thought about the Dead Zone below. We're going to start off talking about the book. Kat always has fun facts. And I even joked before we started that she is going to have the meat, the substance of this discussion. She is going to be the heavy lifter because she oftentimes is the heavy lifter when it comes to King. Because you can't even see my muscle because she knows King. It's so small. Your mental muscle is bigger than mine.
Well, we've just been pretty busy with everything we're doing for our Christmas Evil readathon.
I know. By the way, Christmas Evil bitch. Kat has the nice PG version.
Yes, I have the Xmas.
It was called the fancy version
Oh,
when I made it.
Oh,
yes, it's the fancy design.
I am fancy.
Yes, the fancy design.
Oh.
Of course, Kat picks the fancy design.
Of course.
Anyway, Arlene is here. Hi, Kelsi and Kat.
Yay!
So glad to see you. Hi, Cool Gamer.
Ooh,
welcome.
Yes. Hello, Cool Gamer.
We're glad you're here. I've been doing this a lot lately in my videos. I don't know why. It's like a little I don't know. Hi, Halko. I gave the book 4 stars. I did not expect to like it as much as I did. The movie was interesting.
Very good.
The ice is going to break. Or what does he say? I forgot. He smashes. I don't think that's the right approach, Christopher Walken.
No, I don't think so.
The first episode was pretty good. I'm glad you watched it. You did better than me. He is more successful. I'm a failure.
Well, Halko is my kindred spirit.
It's true. It is true. I'm a failure.
No, you're not.
I'm so sorry.
You read the book and you watched the movie, and that's all that matters. So,
I wanted to get there, but last night we just ran out of time and steam.
Well, and remember, we also were thinking we might even watch several episodes, like maybe even the first season.
Yeah.
How naive were we to think?
I mean,
maybe somehow subconsciously we had a little clairvoyance to know that we would be way too busy in December.
I know. I mean, I had no idea. This December seems really busy.
Yes, it is. And I think it's because of the Christmas Evil readathon.
I do, because like it's hard running that Instagram sometimes. I'm like on my phone, like it's draining the battery.
You're
I'm
doing
like
Instagram, you're doing Discord, we're doing movie watch parties,
sprints now.
Sprints. I mean,
for that and for fun. I'm just doing sprints that are not even related sometimes.
Yeah, so it's totally
crazy.
Understandable.
And you got a ton going on too.
Yes, I do. But it's okay. It's going to be all okay.
So
we still have some great stuff to talk to you about today.
You and Halko really are like kindred spirits.
I think
because
we are.
I mean, I'm not just trying to spoil it, but you gave it like the same rating.
I know.
Like, what the heck?
know. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
We are like mind melding. I bet you would be awesome at improv.
I bet, because Kat is, and she takes improv classes.
Yes. Okay, so
tell us your fun facts, your meaty facts.
Well, let's just talk about, first of all, The Dead Zone is about a young man named Johnny Smith, right? Who has an accident as a kid, and which is probably a concussion.
Yeah.
Literally. And then he has another accident as an adult. He ends up in a coma for 5 years, and his whole life is changed dramatically because of this.
And they spend a lot of time in the book examining him being, not conscious, his mom, fussing over him, etc.,
Hmm,
etc.
hmm.
That's skipped over in the movie.
Yes, it is. So there's a lot going on with him,
Sorry. Go ahead.
and I made her cough.
It's her. I did
It's
not even
me.
think about coughing until Kat was next to me. Then I'm like, "Oh, go ahead. Go ahead."
But I just find that because of this pivotal moment in his life, like everything in his life changes,
Mhm.
from personal life, professional life. He's given this gift. I don't know if it would be really a gift.
But he
It's
kind of
more so
had
like
it
a
before the accident.
kind of, but not as much.
Not as
He had
heavily.
like inklings.
Well, I mean, he did with the roulette,
He did, but
or
it
whatever
wasn't
that
like
is.
as prominent. But of course, it wasn't really touching anybody either,
That's true.
So I think it manifested more when he was in his coma
Yeah.
for
Yes.
that long. But just talking about the book itself, published in 1979, which if you've read the book, you can tell it's a little bit dated as far as what they're talking about in the world,
Mhm.
especially the politics. It was published by Viking, and I believe this might have been the first book that he published with Viking,
Oh, I
if
didn't
I'm not
realize that.
100% sure. Prior to that, he was publishing with Doubleday. It's dedicated to his son at the very beginning. We know that his son Owen, that's what the dedication is for. Um, it is also the first story that we're introduced to Castle Rock. Johnny Smith and his family do not live in Castle Rock. However,
Castle Rock's
Castle Rock
plays
is
a small
close to it, and
role.
it plays a small role because of the serial killer, Frank Dodd. It was also, I believe, the first book to be on the bestsellers list for paperback and hardback. Of
Oh,
course, hardcover comes out first. It's considered one of his best written novels.
really?
Yes, it is. And it is not considered horror. I don't think anybody would think that. I don't think so.
No, it had a
It
lot of political stuff. It had I mean, what would you even call it?
I think I consider it more of a paranormal thriller.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Um, it has horrific circumstances, but it kind of is almost like it has a little psychological thriller part to it as well, and maybe even detective novel
Yeah.
or
Yes.
detective fiction.
Yeah, it kind of feels like that at
So I
times.
don't really consider it a horror novel.
Me
I did not
neither.
list it as a horror novel for myself. I mean, I don't think so. It is a 4-star read for me. What did you give it?
I gave it a 3.
Okay, but that's
I
okay.
didn't like I had such high hopes. Again, we always talk about expectations,
Mhm.
how that plays such a big role in things. So I The Dead Zone is one of the rare Stephen King stories that I didn't know much about. I thought I knew a little bit about it, but I didn't really. I hadn't seen the movie before reading the book. Very, very rare again. So I go into it thinking it was gonna be something different. I did think there was gonna be a little bit more horror in it.
Mhm.
I also didn't know there would be so much political stuff
Mhm.
in it. That kind of took me aback. I thought the Frank Dodd thing was running throughout that's the only little part I knew, was that there was this Frank Dodd situation
Right.
and this Castle Rock situation. I actually thought that was the main focus of the story. That was just my preconceived assumption, I guess.
Mhm.
And I thought that was going to run through the whole novel. And then when that part was basically wrapped up, like, how far in were we when that wrapped up? I can't remember, but it wasn't all the way through. And I was like,
Right.
what's gonna be the rest? And then this political stuff starts playing out and gets more heavy. And I just wasn't the hugest fan of that.
Mhm.
I did like the beginning quite a bit, and the Castle Rock part I loved. Just overall a 3, just because of
Well,
the
I think what
political
it is
stuff.
is I've already read it. I mean, it was
Hmm.
many, many years ago that I read it, but apparently I blocked out all the political stuff
Really?
because I remembered the Frank Dodd. I remembered his accident and what happened between him and Sarah and all of that stuff. I just totally forgot about the political aspect of it, which, as far as a villain, Greg Stilson was a good villain. But it was heavy on the political stuff, which is crazy to me. And I think maybe why it stood out so much more now to me than it did the first time is that we are in political crisis now, whereas we were not when I read it the first time.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that makes sense. I am not huge into politics. I don't like to talk about politics. Um, but I just feel like it's always in your face nowadays, where it wasn't like that when I first read it.
And you know what? Another thing that struck me was, so I read it physically along as I listened to the audio. So the audio is narrated by James Franco.
Mhm.
James Franco was in the 11/22/63
Yes.
adaptation. And that to me is very political and also
Mhm.
kind of about like, would you change things if you could? So the Dead Zone really was like, it was kind of like this weird, surreal thing where it reminded me a
Yes.
lot, even though obviously it came out before, of 11/22/63, the show, because I haven't read the book.
Right.
But in terms of, and Franco was in the show,
Well, and the
so it was
crazy
weird.
thing about it is both of them have to deal with assassination of
Exactly.
different people, of different aspects, but
And would you
and when I
change the
get
would
when I
you
get to
change
that and when I
things?
get to that part of it, I'm gonna tell you what happened to me because this is the first time I have actually listened to an audiobook. I read parts of The Dead Zone and then I had to use the audio. Otherwise, I would not have finished before the end
I'm
of
proud of you
November.
for trying
So I
audio.
did try it. And so it was so crazy having James Franco as the narrator because I kept thinking about him from 11/22/63. He didn't narrate it, but as far as I know, but he was in the movie.
Yeah.
And so that is who I had in my brain as Johnny Smith, which
It
was
was
the
weird
craziest thing.
because it should be walking. I mean,
Right.
yeah, it
It
was
should
very
be,
weird.
but it was really weird. And I find James Franco's voice kind of soothing to me. And so it kind of mimicked Johnny Smith's personality in a way.
And I guess Johnny Smith as a protagonist didn't overly excite me a little bit. I think that's part of why I gave it a
Aw.
3. I liked him. I was emotionally invested in him. I felt sad for him, especially
Yeah.
him and Sarah. I mean, that's
Yes.
heartbreaking,
Yes.
really. I mean, who she didn't know he was going to wake up. I think she would have waited if she knew he was going to be up in
Right.
5 years. I think she
Yes.
would have waited, but there was no way to know.
Well, I think this book, in my opinion, is a slow burn. Not that we haven't
Yeah.
read any other King that's a slow burn. Um, this is a slow burn and it has peaks and valleys. So, like when it seems like you're climbing the peak, you slide quickly into a valley and you kind
Yeah.
of stay in the
Yeah.
valley for a little while. And then you're like chugging up that mountain peak again,
Yeah.
kind of thing. But it was okay. I like Johnny Smith as a protagonist. I mourned the loss of his love, the loss of his relationships with his parents, especially his mother, his job, just having a normal life.
Yeah.
I definitely it kind of leads you down the paths of what if. What if Sarah didn't get sick at the at the fair? What if Johnny would have stayed overnight and they would have spent the night together? What if, it's just what if,
I
what
mean,
if,
the
what
whole thing
if,
is what if,
what
even when you get
if,
into the
what if his
politics.
car wasn't in the shop,
Yeah.
and he wouldn't have had to call the taxi driver, so it's crazy to me, all the little what ifs about that. But I do think the whole wheel thing at the fair is like the foreshadowing of what was to
Yes.
come for
And
him in
that's why
his
she
life.
got
He played with
so
luck.
sick.
You played with luck, and this is the hand you're gonna get dealt kind of
Yeah,
thing. I don't
yeah.
know.
You're tempting fate,
Right,
essentially.
right. I personally wanted more Frank Dodd, and I don't know
Me
why
too.
I thought
Me
it was so
too.
much heavier on Frank Dodd, but like I said, I think it's the whole political climate thing. But I really would have liked to have gotten more into the background. It was very interesting,
Yeah.
to see, more of I mean, you get a little gist of how he was treated as a child and what it had done, but did they kind of remind you too? Wasn't there something to do with a clothespin in 11/22/63 as well?
I don't
With
know. I haven't read
Sadie's
the book,
husband?
but I have watched in the show even, it would have been
Yes,
included. I can't
yes. I think
remember.
Sadie's husband did some weird thing either to himself with a clothespin or to her sexually.
I don't
And so
remember.
when Jake confronts him, he's like, I know what you did, kind of
Yeah.
thing. Yeah. And it kind of makes him like he's upset because, it kind of emasculates him or whatever.
Yeah.
Cause he's a bully to Sadie, but anyway. Um,
In terms of Frank Dodd, I do wish there was more too. And by the way, I feel like we got glimpses of a more sinister Frank Dodd in Cujo. Because we get these,
yes.
I just felt like I wanted more
Mhm.
also because this is
Mhm.
where he's from, is
Eh,
this book.
right,
And I was
right.
like, so where's all the dad stuff? And it just felt like it was missing, you know what I mean?
Where's all
I
the dad stuff?
Yeah, where's all the dad stuff?
Okay,
So
so what does Halco say?
he says, I went in knowing nothing. I thought it was going to be majority politics, but it wasn't to him.
Okay,
Oh,
good,
okay.
good. That's good, because that's how it was the first time around for me.
Analog Betty says, I love this discussion because the political stuff is what I enjoy the most. I love the differences. It's
Mhm.
great to see how other people
Right.
experience things. She paired this with reread of the Manchurian Candidate. Ooh.
Okay.
Hauko, like Johnny and
Yes, I
Sarah.
love their
Me
relationship. I
too.
loved it as much as I liked, Jake and Sadie's in 11/22/63, or, like, the relationship,
I like the Cujo
the
parents.
Cujo parents in the book.
In the book, not in the I love,
Right,
of course, I love my girl in the movie, but not
right,
the dad.
right. But, I mean, I just think he does well with relationships in general between people, because he writes characters so well. But, yeah.
Johnny's mom reminded him of
Yes,
Carrie's mom. I thought that
yes.
the religious
Yes,
fanaticism,
yes,
yes, yeah.
100%. Carrie White's mom is
But you know what was
off
unique
the charts.
about Johnny's mom was that she kind of mixed religion with, like,
So yeah,
superstitious
yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
Like,
science fiction
yeah,
and
it was
yeah,
very
yeah.
strange.
Okay, so the thing about Johnny's ability, the stakes get higher. At first, he has the incident at the fair. Then, he comes out of the coma and he helps the woman with the burning house, and then it gets a little more because he ends up helping out with, the case. And then he ends up finding out that, if Greg Stilson is elected, the world could end. So it's like the seriousness of everything he
It
discovers,
ramps up.
it ramps up kind of
Yeah.
thing. And I love that question. If you could jump into a time machine and go back in 1932, would you kill Hitler? And I think that raises a very interesting question because, and the reason I say that is he asked two people that question.
Mhm.
He asked Hector Mackenzie, who is Charlene's father. Charlene is who marries Johnny's father.
Mhm.
He served in World War One, and he says, "Yes, I would stab him, and then first put a coat of rat poison on the knife when
Mhm.
he does it." Okay, so you have a person who has served in the
Sorry.
military, and seems natural that he would have done something like that.
Yes.
Roger Chatsworth, who is Johnny's employer, and this was Chuck's father, he says no, he would have joined the party and try to change things from within. So two different aspects about that. So it really makes you think. I think it raises an interesting issue because I think that if you go back in time, you're messing with the trajectory of what could happen.
The butterfly effect.
Would you end up causing another dimension to rip off out of what is currently happening, and then you get into all these crazy things. Whereas if you could see the future like Johnny can, you could stop and prevent at that moment, and you really haven't messed with the lives of others. I think that's the difference between
Mhm.
this and 11/22/63. 11/22/63, he does go back
It's more of
and
like a
he
butterfly
yes,
effect,
and he causes
idea.
all these problems, or whatever for people because of those choices. Sometimes you have to have terrible choices,
Yes.
kind of thing. I personally would want to try to go back and get Hitler because
Me
he was
too.
horrific. But I don't know. I would think it's better if you could try to prevent it present
Before
day.
it even
Right.
happens, right.
Which is what Johnny wants to do, which I think would be excellent. But I think he feels these people out and he takes what he learns because really at the point that Johnny decides to make his decision, he has nothing to lose. We know that he's going to die. He's got a brain tumor. He knows
Mhm.
that kind of thing. So, what about you? I mean, how do you think handling that as a question? I mean, how would you answer? I know you say yes, I would want to do that.
Yes, but it's not really thrown right in your face in the book, but in the movie, when Johnny asks that question, the answer is yes, but and then Johnny says, it's a suicide mission, essentially. Like, you're
Mhm.
not going to be getting away with it. And he's like, yeah, that's fine. Like, I know, but I'd still kill him. So to me, that raises a big question because, like, nobody who he asks in the book, I don't think, realized that if you do kill him, you're
Right.
gone.
Right.
You're a goner.
Right.
So I like how in the book they brought that in. I mean, in the movie they brought that into the forefront
Mhm.
because it kind of almost in that second gave Johnny the acceptance of well, I'm probably not going to come back after this, and that's fine
Mhm.
because he had something going on anyway.
Right.
I don't know.
Well, because
I
it's
don't know
not
how I
in
would
the
do it.
movie, though, it's never brought up that he has a tumor.
I know, but it's brought up that
So
he's getting worse.
right,
So I
right.
think it's kind of assumed. I think he assumes he doesn't have long.
Well, I think also at that point, he knows he's lost Sarah 100%. You know,
And then kind of in the movie, he lost. Yeah,
he can't work for him, which is not what happened. He chooses not to work with Roger and Chuck,
yeah, which is
at
weird
that
that they
point,
changed that.
so he's pretty much, except for his father and, Sam, the doctor who he becomes really good friends with, you know, he doesn't feel well, it's not really Sam in the movie. Is it Sam? Yeah, it
Yeah,
is
it is
Sam.
Sam in the movie.
Those are the only 2 people really he has this close bond with at that point, and I guess he figures
It's for the
they're
greater
gonna be
good.
okay, it's for the greater good, and
Yeah.
they have to live in this world, so he's doing it for all of those people, I
Mhm.
think.
I think so too. And so how would I answer the question? Yes, I'd do it, but I would have to know that I'd be basically sacrificing myself.
Yes,
And I'd have
yes.
to be okay with that. And I think I would be knowing how horrible Hitler turned out to be and how many lives he ruined. I mean, yeah, I would take one for the team, the humanity team.
Exactly, exactly. And the crazy thing is I've heard theories or stories about how Hitler was almost killed during his life before he became, this dictator. And it's so crazy how close he came to death on these different
I
occasions.
know,
And
but
it's
yet
like,
he still survived to do what he
I'm
did.
telling you, it
It's
does. It
sad
is
and
very
sick. Yeah.
sad and scary.
Yeah, and scary.
And I did say I thought this was a sad book. I mean, Johnny was a good guy, like Cujo was a good dog. I can't help bringing
Yes.
it up because I just think it's funky circumstances that lead both of them to sad endings. Like I just hated that for both of them. Johnny
Yeah.
didn't deserve the lot in life he got, just like Cujo didn't endure.
I
Need
know.
to endure
Cujo.
that. I love
And we got
Cujo.
his perspective in the book. I love that book.
But I have to say, the Dead Zone, just like Cujo, both had realistic endings, in my opinion. It wasn't the happily ever after ending for our, characters.
Mhm.
Johnny didn't use his gift for bad purposes either. He could have been a real shit and gone out and tried to get
Yeah,
money and women, and he could have gone out to try to get political power if he wanted to.
yeah,
So it tells you a lot about his character,
it
I feel,
does. Oh, yeah.
just in general.
He was a good
He
person.
was a good person. This is a book that I read, was it
Fear
September?
itself.
Fear Itself. And what I like about this book, it's about the early works of Stephen King. And while not all of the essays are the most interesting, some of them were kind of dry, I guess. There were quite a few that were really good. And I just wanted to share a couple of passages of why I say this was like one of his most popular books and
Yeah.
one of the ones that they consider is really great writing. This one comes from Serinda. We cannot speak today. It must be it's the
Cinderella's.
rainy weather.
It is.
Cinderella's Revenge twists on fairy tale and mythic themes in the work of Stephen King by Chelsea Quinn Yarbrough. In this one passage that stands out to me in here, just to give a little more information about the Dead Zone. It says, after The Stand comes the Dead Zone, which is in many ways King's most successful book. King does not often deal with every man so clearly as in the Dead Zone. To pit a man, something of an innocent, against the casual brutality of his villains shows an increasing depth to King's work. Johnny is out of sync with the rest of the world, as in every man, and has to deal with his uncanny awareness of evil as best he can. At first, this is merely inconvenient and awkward, but as the presence of the evil grows stronger and attracts reinforcements, Johnny is made more and more aware of the need for action. This is not unlike the story of Grimm's Everyman Faithful John, who, to avert great travail, must act in ways that will earn him the punishment and the odium of his peers and superiors. Like Faithful John, Johnny does as his conscience and perceptions require, and he is prepared to pay the price.
Wow. I like
Okay.
that analysis. Yeah.
Yes. So then the next little part is from an essay called Horror Hits High by Fritz Lieber. And it says, as you might expect, The Dead Zone is King's most restrained novel, and I think the best of King's novels so far. Well thought out, plotted soundly and carefully, no holes I noted, a sympathy rouser with strong feelings, no flamboyant supernatural trappings, but a chilling area of inner space at its center. So it's amazing how, and this was written by people back in the day. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
when this was first out. And then the last one comes from the essay by Ben P. Indick, King and the Literary Tradition of Horror and the Supernatural. The Dead Zone is significantly a tribute to one of King's most important inspirations, Ray
Huh.
Bradbury. Bradbury's early weird fiction had initiated the use of a natural vernacular and ordinary individuals in their own homes and small towns. The knowledge that horror could be local and the victim a common man produced a more personal fear in the reader. King's novel not only owes much of its carnival ambiance to Bradbury's Something Wicked This Way Comes, but it acknowledges the debt in mentioning the title and author, and in another reference, yet another Bradbury title, Dark Carnival. It even features a character who sells lightning rods, an occupation much discussed in Bradbury's first chapter.
That is true. I did notice the lightning rod thing. I was like, that's kind of weird that that guy even has one. But
And I want to say
yeah,
Bradbury was one of the authors that influenced Stephen King in his writing.
yeah.
So I just thought that was interesting. So if you want to know any kind of literary criticism about Stephen King's early works, we're talking Carrie, The Dead Zone, The Stand, Cujo. This is the book, The Shining. They even have a lot of stuff about The
Oh,
Shining, which I'll,
really?
probably look up some information about that as well. And then, of
So yes,
course,
Betty, it's called Fear Itself.
Fear Itself. Let me see when this was published. 1982 was the original copyright date, and then again in 1993.
And they might even have a new edition by now. I don't know.
The
But
thing that I love about this book is because there is a foreword by Stephen King that tells you how he became a brand name as far as a horror writer. It says, On Becoming a Brand Name is the name of it. Peter Straub, who Stephen King was very good friends with, he writes the introduction called Meeting Stevie. And then at the end, there's an afterword written by George A. Romero, who he was also friends with.
I
Stephen
like
King had a
that. That is
very
pretty
good
cool.
relationship. All three of those essays were awesome. Like I learned a lot. I learned a lot also. This is the book where I learned about the information about Carrie. How
Yeah.
some people seem upset because why would this old man write a book about a young girl? Well, he was like 19 years old when he wrote
Yeah,
Carrie.
and he had a wife.
And
who he
his wife
consulted.
is the one who actually got the papers, his writing out of the
Yeah.
garbage can and said, you need to write this, and kind of helped him with the female perspective of it. So I think that's one thing a lot of people have a misunderstanding with Stephen King. They get upset because now they're reading it. You have new generations of people reading King now
Mhm.
that did not grow up in the 70s and the 80s.
Yeah, to
And the
him,
thing
he's this
is
older man,
and I'm not saying
yeah.
these things were great. Stephen King's not even telling you these things were great, but this is what was going on at the time.
Right.
So it's you got to look at when you approach a book, this is just strictly my opinion. When you approach a book and it's set at a different time or written at a different time, you have to take in the social climate and the political climate at that time.
Right. Right.
It makes a big difference.
It really
you
does.
know. So anything you have to add to that?
When you're looking at things from a modern perspective, sometimes it just doesn't make sense because that's not when it was written.
Right.
So I mean, when you read vintage stuff as much as I do, that's the lens you've got to remember when you're reading this stuff. You got to look through that lens.
Right.
Like this was written in a different time. Because sometimes there's stuff that's kind of offensive, and you got to realize, oh shit. But then again, it was the time. It wasn't just this author. It was literally, and I'm not saying it's right.
Well, and I'm not,
even saying
and I'm not
King.
even saying as a reader that I agree with it.
No,
It
no.
is what it is at that time. And I mean, those are tough things to think about. I mean, we still got to think about them. They're part
Yeah.
of whatever the history of it is. So anyway.
Lots of good thoughts here. Lots of good analysis. I told you Kat brought the meat.
I'm like Arby's, right?
Yes, like Arby's. The meat of the convo.
Okay, so let me just go through this. I hope y'all don't mind. This is my special book that Kelsi
I'm so glad you got so much enjoyment out of it.
I get so much out of this book.
I'm so happy.
I would definitely recommend this. Definitely. If you're a King.
I just picked it up on a whim at Barnes & Noble. It was the last one.
If you're a King fan, I think this is wonderful. This I don't even know what this is, just part of a little synopsis of each one. It says The Dead Zone is a political paranormal thriller.
Okay,
according to this author.
I see that. Yeah.
Many readers believe that Stephen King predicted the persona and presidency of Donald Trump with the character of Greg Stilson in this novel. And I'm not bringing this up just so we can have a debate, but I'm just reading what's in here.
Yeah, yeah.
King has been extremely vocal and negative about Trump, mainly via Twitter, to the point that Trump blocked King after some of his tweets.
Oh, that's pretty funny.
In an April 1st, 2017 essay for the UK Guardian, Stephen King on Donald Trump, How Do Such Men Rise? First, as a joke, he talked about the comparison between Greg Stilson and Donald Trump. I had written about such men before. In The Dead Zone, Greg Stilson is a door-to-door Bible salesman with a gift of gab, a ready wit, and the common touch. He is laughed at when he runs for mayor in a small New England town, but he wins. He is laughed at when he runs for the House of Representatives. Part of his platform is a promise to rocket America's trash into outer space, but he wins again. And when Johnny Smith, the novel's precognitive hero, shakes his hand, he realizes that someday Stilson is going to laugh and joke his way into the White House, where he will start World War III. Another note, during this period when Johnny was in his coma, Sarah Bracknell lived in Vesey, Maine on Flag Street. So that's like a nod to Randall Flagg.
Oh, cool. I love that.
In July 1984, an interview with David Sherman in Fangoria magazine, King talked about The Dead Zone. What always happens for me with a book is that you frame the idea of the book or the what if, and little by little, characters will take shape, generally as a result of a secondary decision about the plot. In the case of The Dead Zone, it was simply, what if a man was able to have his ability to see the future? What if you were to explore the idea in the book? If he was just an ordinary guy that could really do it? The secondary thing was the visualization of this guy taking a test paper from a student and saying, you got to go home right away. Your house is burning down. That never actually appears in the book, but it set the thing of him as a teacher. There were some other decisions that were made, and then it was time to pick the book up and begin to go. So that was kind of like his inspiration of what else could I do with it.
Right.
We kind of talked about that.
That's awesome.
But anyway, I think Greg Stilson is like the worst person.
Oh, yeah.
And very dangerous, almost even more so than some of our other villains we've seen, in our other stories.
Because this is a very powerful, it could be a very powerful person when it comes down to it.
Well, and it's also
changing
not
the fate of humanity.
And it's not make-believe in the sense that it could happen.
Yes.
That's what I think is scary. Leland Gaunt is the devil and had supernatural powers. But
you're not afraid that he's going to
come and get me?
No. I hope not. Don't kiss us. Don't kiss us, Leland. Making out.
Or like Pennywise the clown, while he is terrifying and scary, do I think he's going to get me from the sewer? No.
But you are afraid of that little boy outside the window.
I am. Okay, I would do admit that. That is true. I am still afraid.
I know.
I'm still afraid of that little boy from Salem's
But still,
Lot.
most of them can't get you, including the little boy, technically. Even though you're still afraid, he can't get you.
I am a 53-year-old woman, soon to be 54 years old, and I am definitely afraid of the boy that floats out the window in Salem's Lot. I can't help myself.
He is scary, to tell you the truth. I'm not yawning because I'm bored. I'm so tired.
Okay, so, and what he did to the dog in the beginning, exactly.
Horrible. Yes.
Horrible.
Oh my God, that was the
Horrible.
worst.
Yeah, I hated that. And you know what? I blocked that totally out of my mind.
I did too. I almost forgot about it. I would have never remembered that.
Well, I didn't remember it from the first time I read it because I would have been like,
I mean, since I've read it, I forgot it because it is pretty horrific.
Yes.
She's laughing at us, like making all these jokes about how you're still afraid of the Salem's Lot.
I am still afraid of Salem's Lot. So anything else that you have to say about the book itself? I mean,
it was well written. I just can't believe it's one of the most popular, considering, I don't know, I just like so many other books. Like Needful Things blew me away.
Mm-hmm.
So after Needful Things, this was just not the same type of jam that I like.
Right.
You know, it is well written. I do love Johnny as a character. I did feel sadness for Johnny and Sarah. I felt a lot of things, but I wanted more Dodd. I wanted less Stilson because he's a jerk. But I did like the end. I
Mhm,
did like the
mhm.
end. I liked how, you know, he kind of came to accept the fact that he wasn't going to make it. It
Right.
was realistic to me.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I did like the ending a lot. So, the reason like I hated it, it's just it's not my favorite is all.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I even said that when I did my wrap up, for my November wrap up. I gave it a 4, and we know the reasons why. Is it gonna be in my top 10 of Stephen King books? No.
I don't think it's going to be in my top 10. Yeah.
Maybe in a top 25 if I had 25 to choose, perhaps, but out of a top 10, no. Um, and would I ever read it again? Possibly. I mean,
Possibly
it's
down the
it's not
road.
s it's not a book that I dislike so much that I would never pick it up again. But I
I think it
do.
would be interesting to read this and 11/22/63 back to back,
Yes.
just to see if there's
Yes.
anything like any
I
nods
think
to the
there's a
Dead
lot
Zone.
of things. There was just times that I thought about it. And like I said, I do think I was influenced by the audio, the narrator.
Yeah, well, I mean that kind of helps too. That's kind of why I'm making the connection as well. But I was like, this feels very much like the show, and I wish I had read the book. It's so long though. Maybe one day, but I'm intimidated.
Yeah, it's not the longest that he's ever
I
written.
know, but it's still
Oh, it is a
intimidating.
wonderful book in my opinion, and
A lot of people say it's their favorite.
that is when I got to see Stephen King in the flesh in New Orleans, and I have a signed copy of it.
That's pretty damn cool. It's kind of like when I met McCammon. So.
Yes, yes.
I
mean,
was
of
a
course,
nerd when I approached McCammon. I was like, "I love your books. I'm so honored to meet you." I was just like freaking out. I even said like, "I'm trying to shout out your work from the rooftops," something like that, and he laughed.
I think that's great.
I was a nerd.
I know. I'm always afraid when I meet, I didn't get to meet Stephen King. He actually had signed he signed a portion of the books.
Mm-hmm.
And so your admission ticket was for you to buy the book.
Oh,
And so
cool.
it was kind of like a lottery. If you got the signed copy, you got it. If not, so Barry took me, and so he got a book and I got a book. And when we got both of our books, I got a signed copy.
Which is perfect.
I was so excited.
Well, you would have taken his if
Oh,
it was
yes,
signed.
I
I mean,
would've.
you'd have been like,
I
"Bitch,
would've.
give it to
And
me."
then actually for the one that he got, I ended up gifting it to somebody because I didn't need 2 copies of the same book. But it was wonderful. He actually read from the book and he let you ask questions. But there was no way in hell I was going to go ask a question because I would have been like,
I also
I
asked a
am your number
question.
one fan.
I
I'm
know.
so
I was like,
stupid."
"Hello." I asked a question and I was like, "Oh," and then my Nathan watched. There was a live stream of it, and Nathan watched the live stream. He's like, "I heard a good question about boys' life," and I was like, "Haha!" Like as he was saying, it was me. I will say though, they had this doorbell that they wouldn't silence, so all while poor McCammon's talking, ding ding, ding
That's
ding,
terrible.
ding ding.
Poor
I know.
guy.
And he also got emotional while he was reading a passage in his book because it affected him so much. I was
That's
like,
awesome.
"I love
I think
you."
that's awesome.
It was.
Honestly.
I was like, "I
know.
love you. I love you so much." And then when he answered my question about boys' life, he was looking right at me because I was like, "Why do you think it touches so many people across so many generations?" He was like, because I think people want to know that there's something more. And like, as he's like looking at me saying this, I'm like tearing up. Like I was like literally tearing up when he was looking at me
That
saying
is going
that.
to be a book on my 23 for 2023.
Yes,
I think I need to put it on there because I
please.
haven't read anything by him, and it'll be a perfect summer read, I think.
It will. It definitely will. And it's so good. And I think there's no way you wouldn't like it in terms of you will feel connected. I
Oh, I
was
think I would like
was
it.
totally tearing up when he was looking right at me. I was like, well, because what he was saying was emotional too. But yeah, meeting authors is scary
It
though.
is. It
when
is
you really
very.
like them. I mean,
Yes.
it's like
Authors, actors.
anybody.
I mean, every time I'm just like, I can't speak like a normal person. I can't have a
Well,
conversation. Like when I met Spike from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, what do I say? I'm like, "Hey, I've always been Team Spike."
I think that's a great thing to say.
And then he's like, "Yeah, poor Angel. I always felt sorry for him."
It's great.
But we took a picture together, and I was like, "Oh my god!"
I was like shaking when I was taking the picture. Like my hand was just holding Boy's Life in one hand. It was like
Halco, you have to read Boy's Life when I read it, and then we can buddy read it together.
Oh, that'd be fun. Also, Swan Song, we're doing that as my February book club pick for anyone who wants to get a jump on it because it is a chunker. I hear it's freaking great. So just letting you guys know.
Ah,
The ending made Halko sad of the Dead Zone. Yeah, me too.
yeah.
It was sad, but I expected it, and I do think it was realistic. As
I
I
cried. I did cry at the end, but I did not sob as heavily as I did in Cujo. In Cujo,
Cujo.
also for Cujo, I would tear up like stupidly, just
just cause
days after I would think about it. I'm just like, oh, or I'd look at my dog and I'm like,
Cujo.
oh.
Yeah, like Cujo was a good boy, and then he got
I'm like, what is wrong with me?
sick. It wasn't his fault.
But it did. It affected me so badly.
I know.
And that was the first time I had ever read Cujo. I don't know if I could ever read it again. I don't know if I could go through the pain of it.
I love that book. That was such a good book. I would read it again because I loved it.
It was so painful to me.
It was so that one. I think that's the biggest surprise of the King Project was
Yeah.
Cujo for me.
Yes, me too.
I think that's why I like the casting of Martin Sheen in the movie because he is so likable that you see how that charm could be a double-edged sword. He did really good, Martin Sheen, at acting unhinged too. So he had the charm, and then he was like, "Bah!" Like when they show the flash forward, his eyes were all red rimmed. Press the button. Yeah, it was great. I mean, I'm not doing a good impersonation of Sheen, but you know what I'm saying.
Do it again.
Press the button. Like, cause his eyes were all red and like bleh. That looks scary. Wait till you guys see the tag video I got coming out today. I act like the devil in it. It's great. Wait till you see it. I'm so excited. You're gonna laugh.
Oh my god.
And I also knocked over a light in the video. You'll see. I'm like, and I knock it over. You'll see. You'll see. Anyway, by the way, he says yes to the buddy read.
Yay!
Yay!
I'm excited. Woo!
Cujo was brutal.
Yes, 100%.
That was the best impersonation ever. Press the. I don't even think he even says that. Press the button. Like a frog. What the hell?
I hope Martin Sheen's not watching this.
I like Martin Sheen. That's nothing like him. I'm terrible. No one would think that's Sheen. Who am I trying to be? Press the button and somebody would guess Martin Sheen. Yeah, right.
Oh my god.
Nobody would ever
I
guess.
have to compose myself here. I'm crying.
Just like with Cujo, but in a nice way. Like in a happy way.
Right.
I don't even know. Remember how before we were like, we're stressed. This is like
Right.
a product of us being
Yes,
stressed.
both of us are stressed right now. Can you tell?
They probably can't because we're laughing and stuff.
Well, this
But
is like the craziness
Slightly
coming out.
unhinged.
Yeah,
You're like,
slightly unhinged. Right.
press the button.
Okay, so are we ready to move on to the movie?
Yeah, I think we are. We're impersonating the movie, so we might as well go. The ice is gonna break.
Yeah. Okay, so the movie 1983. Guess who our director is?
David Cronenberg.
Yes. We know him from The Brood, Scanners, The
I love
Fly.
The Brood.
He has been directing since 1966 and is still directing today.
He's also writing,
Oh.
I believe.
And
I
he's
think.
also an actor because he played Dr. Philip K. Decker in Nightbreed. So creepy.
We used to like Nightbreed so much. The movie.
No, not until after. I mean, once we read Cabal.
I know it looks a
changed-
lot better.
Right, it changed our whole.
I still like
I
Nightbreed,
do
but
too, but it's
not
just
as
not the
much.
same.
Yeah.
IMDb 7.2 out of 10. Rotten Tomatoes 88%. Google users 86%. Not bad. I don't think at all.
Not bad at all.
I do have some information out of this book. David Cronenberg was not very impressed with Stephen King's writing. Can you believe this? I am shocked.
Oh my.
I know. It says the next movie on this list is David Cronenberg's 1982 Offering the Dead Zone, based on Stephen King's 1979 novel of the same title. Screenwriting duties were handled deftly by Jeffrey Boehm. This is somewhat of a surprise considering the late Boehm's tendency for mediocrity. Funny Farm, anyone? After producer Dino De Laurentiis passed on a screenplay by King himself, said to be considerably darker in tone, it was decided that Boehm would excise major portions of the novel's storyline. Cronenberg would seem to be an unlikely director for the psychological thriller, as it's apparent that he doesn't get much of King's work.
He doesn't get it.
I don't understand
I
that.
don't either.
The director had some unflattering things regarding the quality and tone of the author's original unproduced screenplay, and has also remarked negatively about the lead character's name, which he found insufficient and overly generic. So clearly, he did not get what Stephen King was trying to do.
Pete's.
For the Dead Zone to be effective, casting would be key. Cronenberg selected actor Christopher Walken in the lead role as schoolteacher turned psychic Johnny Smith. Walken's performances can be all over the map, ranging from the truly great The Deer Hunter to a terrible, painful to watch caricature of himself, roughly 75% of his filmography.
Oh.
Thankfully for us as viewers, Cronenberg mines a deliciously multi-layered performance from Walken, who gives one of the best and most memorable turns of his career. One of the major hurdles Cronenberg faced was casting a believable Greg Stilson. He needed an actor at the peak of his powers who could simultaneously display a charming facade with convincing allure while also exuding a radiating energy that is pure evil.
He did such a good job, Martin Sheen. Amazing.
Martin Sheen, who had previously displayed impressive range on films like Apocalypse Now and Badlands, would prove to be a casting perfection. Cronenberg displays a confident hand here behind the camera, doing a remarkable job in directing. The pacing stumbles momentarily here and there, but Cronenberg gets top-notch performances from his cast. At the end of the day, whether the director got King or not, he managed to craft an impressive representation of the author's work.
Wow. So I guess they didn't have any chats over dinner or anything.
I don't think so.
No.
I cannot imagine.
Can I add a little tidbit that has
yes
barely anything to do with this, but it kind of does. So they mentioned that Christopher Walken had a great performance in The Deer Hunter. I do want to shout out The Deer Hunter. It is one of my favorite movies of all time.
He won an award. He won the Oscar for that.
He should have, because I don't know if you've ever seen it, but it's dark. It also stars Meryl Streep, Robert De Niro, really great cast. It also has the Fredo, from the actor who played Fredo from the Godfather movies. I forgot the actor's name, but he's in it too. It is powerful. It is a slow burn because there's a big long exposition where there's a wedding at the beginning where you see these group of friends in this small like steelworker town kind of gathering together for this wedding, getting ready to be shipped out like for Vietnam or whatever. And it is just tough to watch once they get in Vietnam and beyond. It's like harrowing to watch. I've got a poster. It's like a poster with Robert De Niro, like with a gun against his head. And it's like, you can't really find a good poster of it in American. So I had to find an Italian poster and it says Il Cacciatore. So The Deer Hunter. It's one of my favorites. If you guys haven't seen it, if you like The Godfather and you're okay with longer movies with like an exposition at the beginning, where it's kind of like just setting things up and you're getting to learn the people and the characters, then I would suggest it.
Well, he won Best Supporting Actor in 1978.
It goes beyond, like, I gotta say, like, I think anybody would agree his performance even is better than Dead Zone, but Dead Zone I thought was a good performance too overall.
I like Christopher Walken. I like
too.
many of the movies that he's in.
Oh, me too.
The Dead Zone actually is number 5.
Oh, really?
On the film list as good as a good adaptation.
That's good.
Yeah. I don't know if y'all can see this.
This is another thing I gave Kat that was Stephen King related.
Terrible, guys.
Yeah, tilt forward a little.
Oh no, get in front
there
of
he
this.
Is. And it's number 5 on the list.
It's 5 on the list.
So this list is basically like a top, is it a top 10?
Yeah, it is a top 10.
A top 10 of best Stephen King adaptations.
Top 20, actually.
Oh, a top 20. My bad. But it's number 5 on the list.
It's number 5, which I was kind of surprised because it beat out a lot of the other films. You know,
it beat out Secret Window.
Yeah, it beat out Secret Window. It beat out At Pupil and
Firestarter, the original.
The Running Man, Cat's Eye. It beat out Creepshow, Gerald's Game, Children of the Corn. Christine, Cujo, 1408, which I'm surprised.
I'm surprised too.
The Mist.
And Pet Sematary. It beat out Pet Sematary.
1989 Pet Sematary.
What?
Dolores Claiborne, 1922.
Dolores Claiborne to me is more of a classic than Dead Zone.
I know. I was surprised. It says it may not be one of the commercially successful King films, but Dead Zone is one of the most prescient. Christopher Walken stars in David Cronenberg's supernatural masterpiece as Johnny Smith, a schoolteacher awakens from a 5-year coma with the psychic ability to see the future anyone he touches. What most would consider a cool party trick turns into a burden for Johnny, especially once he shakes hands with rising politician Greg Stilson and has a vision of him become president of the United States and subsequently starting World War III. Now it's on Johnny to stop Greg before he becomes dangerously powerful. Although King typically stays out of the movie-making process of his novels, he wrote a draft of the screenplay for Dead Zone, which Cronenberg flat out rejected. Stephen King's own script was terrible, revealed the director. It was not only bad as a script, it was the kind of script that his fans would have torn me apart for doing. It was basically a really ugly, unpleasant slasher script.
Whoa.
Another point the two clashed over: who would play Johnny, a rather brooding guy? King was pushing for comedian. Get ready for this. Bill Murray.
What?
But Cronenberg couldn't imagine
I
the
love
Dead
Bill Murray,
Zone
but no.
starring anyone else but the extremely expressive Walken. That's the subject of the movie. That's what the movie was about. All things that are in his face.
I mean, so Murray later in his career after this, like way after this, you know, when you start to get in Lost in Translation
Right.
times, he did switch his persona from comedy to brooding and
Right.
sulky. But it's more of like a sad old man, not a sad younger man. So yeah, it wouldn't have worked.
Well, I'm glad
Murray.
it was not Bill Murray because I could not imagine him back in the day.
Not back in the day, no. By the way, Analog Betty is wondering what number 1 is. I'm gonna guess The Shining. It's just a guess. I didn't look.
Let me see. I'm pretty sure it is.
I mean, I just
as many times as I've looked through this magazine for all.
I don't even know if we've ever looked at number 1 together. So
it's definitely not the worst.
Yeah,
dun, dun,
yeah.
Dun, the 1980 version of The Shining, which we will talk about that.
Yes, we'll talk about it in January. We really got to set a date for that.
Yes. So then, guess what? Greg Stillson makes the list of most terrifying characters. Are we not surprised? He actually appears in the Dead Zone as well as in the Dark Tower.
Oh, I didn't know he was in the Dark Tower.
How can an intended murder victim be the bad guy if he's a dangerously unstable politician who prepared to start World War III, if not stopped? The outwardly charming Greg Stillson is on track to become the president of the United States when Johnny Smith shakes his hand at the rally and has a vision of destruction. King established the depravity of Stillson in the 1979 novel's opening, in which a young door-to-door Bible salesman, Greg, mercilessly kicks a dog to death. While the passage was upsetting, it was necessary to introduce Stillson, says King, who was deluged with letters from readers about it.
Oh, really?
Yes, they were not happy.
I can see that.
He said, I wrote back to those folks, pointing out the usual things. Greg Stillson was not real. The dog wasn't real. I myself had never in my life put the boot to one of my pets or anyone else's. I also pointed out what might have been a little less obvious. It was important to establish right up front that Gregory Amos Stillson was an extremely dangerous man and very good at camouflage.
Camouflage. You're so fancy today.
Fancy. I wear a fancy shirt, and I now become fancy.
And your language is fancy to match your clothes.
I'm telling you. He says, I wanted him to be authentically nasty and really scare the reader, not just because Stillson is always boiling with potential violence, but because he's so goddamn persuasive. I wanted the reader to constantly be thinking, this guy is out of control. How come somebody can't see through him? And then they have a picture of Martin Sheen.
Yes. By the way, someone asked Robert McCammon, why do you hurt so many dogs in your books? And he was like, I don't hurt the dogs. Like,
I know. Well, the thing is I find Stephen King does too.
He does.
It makes me so sad.
But someone actually asked him that.
But the thing is Stephen King is a dog lover.
I know.
I mean, he has Molly, the thing of evil.
People don't like it sometimes because I think it's a cheap way to hate it, like to get a character to be hateable. Like, isn't there a better way where you could do it more sophisticated? But I do think it's like I think it's
effective because if you're gonna be cruel like that to
if someone's beating a person to death, it's sad, but it's pretty terrible when it's a helpless animal. You know what I mean?
Yes.
By the way, I just want to say quickly before you go on, Crystal's here. Hi, Crystal.
Hey, Crystal.
She wanted to join because she really likes the Dead Zone book, movie, and show.
Yay!
And Betty thought it was number 1. She thought number 1 was
The Mist.
No, she thought it was Stand By Me.
No, it is not. In fact, Stand By Me is not even on the list.
Wow.
No.
And she said it beat out The Mist. So she's very surprised about that.
Yes, I am too. I was kind of surprised where it ended up on the list.
Yeah, me too.
Even that it beat out 1408.
Yeah,
I do like
because I think
1408.
1408 is great.
As far as it says 8 scariest scenes, Frank Dodd's suicide made it.
Really?
Yes, as number
I don't know. I thought that
6.
was kind of ridiculous. Like, there's easier ways to go, dude. You set up
Yeah.
a freaking pair of scissors and go.
I wish we could have seen it.
I know.
I was like,
Kind of
like
cheated us
after the
out of it.
fact. I
Yeah.
know. I mean, there he is. He's in the bathtub. You know.
I just think that was such a weird way to go.
I can't wait to talk to you about these actors either. No one was sad to see the Dead Zone serial rapist and murderer die, but it wouldn't have been nice not to have to watch his graphic suicide. I didn't think it was all that. As the authorities close in on Frank Dodd, he decides they'll never take him alive. In the book, the disgraced police sheriff slashes his own throat. But in David Cronenberg's 1983 film, the sadistic character takes it even further, lowering his mouth onto a pair of scissors.
Which makes no sense. I don't know why you'd do that. Anyway, I didn't like the way he killed
was
himself.
weird.
I thought
that might have been like Cronenberg's little special touch because he likes to do gruesome stuff.
He does.
Hence The Brood. Just watch The Brood.
I love The Brood.
You will never. I don't know, that one scene.
You'll never forget it. It's true.
The scene is so gruesome, the UK Film Board demanded it be cut, pun not intended, before The Dead Zone was released in theaters. Well, that was back in the day. I'm sorry. And if you want to go on a field trip, we'd have to go to Canada. But
Canada.
One of the places, the Dead Zone gazebo, is on 6 Front Street, Niagara-on-the-Lake, Ontario. The site for the movie's grisly rape and murder. It was donated to Queens Royal Park after filming Wrapped. It's so picturesque, it hosts more than 100 weddings a year.
Wow. Want to get married where this person died on camera? Great. There it is.
I'm terrible with
You
it.
got there it is. See?
I am the worst.
No, you aren't. You're bringing all the juice. Now it's juice instead of meat.
Oh, man.
Johnny is the saddest character I've read.
Yes.
His story is heartbreaking, and I think King captures it well. It is sad.
Well, it is, but Cujo's sadder.
I mean, Cujo's pretty sad. By the way, here's a hot take. I think this differs from your opinion, Kat. I really didn't like Walken as Johnny. I just couldn't take him seriously. Honestly, there were times I couldn't take him seriously.
Well, there were, and let me tell you, after seeing the first episode of the TV show, I actually think I like Anthony Michael Hall's portrayal of Johnny Smith better.
Oh, really?
He seems more of the personality of Johnny in the book. The thing about it is, I didn't mind Walken the first time I had seen the movie. But that was prior to me, I think, reading the book. Like, I can't remember if I saw the movie before I read it the first time, or if I don't know.
Or vice versa.
Now reading it again and watching it, I'm like, I don't know if it was necessarily the best choice. I hated his hair at the very beginning.
I hated his hair the whole time.
Like, did they not give him a decent haircut?
I hated his hair the whole time. Flat, spiky, weird.
It was like a bowl cut. Like,
it was a bowl cut,
weird.
But then it was like blah, blah.
I didn't like it.
I didn't like it.
I was trying not to judge him because I love Christopher Walken.
I do too. And also, like, because of his hair, I think, even though his hair's like that now, his face looks so extra weird.
I don't know.
Like, I know he's got an unusual face, but it looked extra weird.
Andrew happened to walk in. That's my son, Andrew, happened to walk in when I had just started. He's like, "You're watching a movie with Christopher Walken in?" He's like, "Boy, he looks really young." I was like, "Yeah, this is back in the day."
But to me, so like he's supposed to be, what age is Johnny again?
He just seemed older.
He did. And then when he was like had his sweater and the glasses on and Sarah came to I was like, he looks like an old man.
Yes.
Like,
yeah. So I don't know, after reading it again and you know what it is? I think I'm totally influenced by James Franco.
Well, I mean, he's so young, and you're picturing him, yes. And then you see freaking Walken, especially you got his little sweater and his little glasses at one point. He looks like.
Now, I will say I wasn't pleased with the opening of watching Christopher Walken's hairdo at the beginning, but I did love the fact that he was reading an Edgar Allan.
Yes, and he also referenced Sleepy Hollow.
Yes, I know. Yes. I was excited. So he was reciting The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe.
Oh, Crystal agrees with you. She likes Anthony Michael Hall better.
Oh, good.
As Johnny.
Yes, I do, and I can't wait to watch the rest of the series.
I'm gonna have to check it out.
Christopher Walken has been acting since 1952, and he actually started off more in theater and I think TV. I think he was even on Guiding Light.
Really?
Yes, at one point.
I could see that. He's very, very, dramatic.
He has his filmography is so
I know.
extensive.
Trust me, guys, if you haven't watched The Deer Hunter, do yourself a
I
favor.
am going to do it. It's on my list
You have
because
to. It's so good.
I don't remember ever seeing it. And
I
if I
think Meryl
did, I must have
Streep
been
won.
little.
I thought Meryl Streep won too.
Yeah.
Maybe not, but check it out. I think you'd like it.
It's
If you like The
probably.
Godfather, you'll like it.
Yes.
But it's harder to watch than The Godfather.
Sarah Bracknell is played by Brooke Adams, who's been acting since 63 to the present. She is also known for Invasion of the Body Snatchers, the 1978 film. I didn't care for the actress. I mean, she's a nice actress, but I didn't see her.
Well, it's just so hard when the setup is completely so different, so out of left field. Like, she's supposed to be kind of like downcast and like sick at the beginning,
Right.
and it's like completely different. So it's hard right
Yes.
away when we're introduced to her. She's like all peppy and there's nothing wrong.
Well, and also too, their relationship is already cemented. They're
Yeah.
not in a. It's not like in the book. In the book, they were
We
just
hear her
starting to.
doubts.
Well, they
Yeah.
were just getting ready to know each other, and like this, they were already have a relationship that's established. Okay. Herbert Lom plays Dr. Sam Wyzak. Tom Skerritt, who I happen to like.
I love Tom Skerritt.
He, if you don't know, he's in Top Gun, which I've never watched Top Gun.
Me neither.
I'm glad to see I'm not the only one in
No,
America.
I haven't.
And he was also on Cheers. He's played in lots of things, but he plays Sheriff Bannerman. He's also got some links with other Stephen King movies. He was in the 2006 Desperation, and he also appears in a TV episode of The Dead Zone.
Oh, cool.
Yes. Nicholas Campbell plays Frank Dodd, and guess what? Nicholas Campbell was in The Brood. He played Chris in The Brood.
I didn't remember that. Okay, great connection.
Jackie Burroughs plays Vera Smith, Johnny's mom. Sean Sullivan plays Herb Smith. Let's see. Colleen Dewhurst plays Henrietta Dodd, which is Frank Dodd's mom.
Yeah, who tries to
what's
shoot
really
people.
funny is I just recently did an L.M. Montgomery challenge called a More Montgomery challenge on BookTube. And I had to watch Anne of Green Gables and something that was related, but not necessarily to Anne. So there was another show I watched called Road to Avonlea. Jackie Burroughs and Colleen Dewhurst both played in Road to Avonlea and were in the episode that I had just watched. Jackie plays Hetty King and Colleen Dewhurst plays Marilla Cuthbert. Martin Sheen happened to be in the movie that I watched, Anne of Green Gables.
Oh, okay. So you were seeing the same people.
It was so funny. I couldn't believe it. He plays, Martin Sheen actually plays Matthew Cuthbert in the 2016 version of Anne of Green Gables. So I just thought that was funny. I was like, boy, these people look so familiar to me. Well, because I just recently saw them.
Tom Skerritt. Crystal says, oh, yes.
Yeah. So I was excited about that. I had forgotten, that he was in it.
That's so fun.
Now, Greg Stilson, played by Martin Sheen. He also plays in Firestarter, the 1984 version of Firestarter. He plays Captain James Hollister. I personally, please guys, don't be mad at me.
You didn't like him?
I didn't like Martin Sheen as a character. The only reason
I thought he did great.
I wish I would have remembered he was in it, or I would have seen something with him, or I would have looked in my magazine ahead of time. I envisioned Greg Stilson to be like this overweight mafia kind of guy.
Yeah, but he's got to have charm.
I know, but I can't even really think of an actor that could have played him
the way you were envisioning.
The way I was envisioning him. I don't know. Martin Sheen is like good looking and charismatic and young.
But when he goes all red-eyed.
I know. I don't know. I mean, I think he did a great job. I'm not saying he didn't do a great job. It's just that that's not how I envisioned him.
No, I understand when that happens.
So then I'm just like, like I really need to think about who I just can't even think who would be.
Yeah, who would be like a
follow that. I just felt like I was thinking of somebody darker and, I don't know.
Crystal says she feels like Sheen played the same character in Dead Zone and Firestarter.
Oh, wow.
I have not watched Firestarter.
It's been a long time since I've seen
you
Firestarter.
should you should read it and then revisit it and watch the remake.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Because I have not.
I think
have
I've heard
not.
bad things about the remake, but or actually good things. I can't remember. Bad or good things is totally opposite, so I don't know which is it. It's got to be one or the other. So
So
I'm
profound. You're
stressed.
so
I'm
profound.
stressed.
But
so
some other
stressed.
funny tidbits. Weizak's mother was Helen Uddy, who played My Bloody Valentine and who was Mrs. Claus, Mrs. Werner.
No, she really went downhill with Mrs. Claus. If you're curious about Mrs. Claus,
Don't watch it.
don't even consider it. Like we are warning you, and you will
Yes,
thank us.
yes.
If you ever did stumble upon it, you would know what we saved you
Also,
from.
we also warn you to not watch this movie, Ugly Sweater Party.
No, Crystal had
Do
fun.
not watch it. And if
Crystal
you
had
do
fun.
watch it, please make sure that you have an alcoholic or adult beverage, and you have friends.
I think with friends it's fun because you can make fun of it and be like,
Yes,
why?
it's not as painful or pornful.
Pornful, yes, pornful. Yes, Crystal laughed. She had a good time. She was drinking wine though.
Thank
so.
God for Crystal, because it made me feel better that I picked such a horrid
Nobody
movie
was really
to be on my Christmas horror list. I mean, I thought bad enough I picked Mrs. Claus
You
in that
picked Mrs.
Krampus
Claus.
movie last
You
year.
picked Krampus. You picked
With that other one, something about creatures in the
All Through the
Yeah,
House.
All Through the House was terrible.
And I watched
too.
it because of you.
Oh, God,
But
I
it was
know.
fun.
I cannot. I mean,
it was bad as
and
well.
I have to admit, I will admit this on camera.
Christmas Evil.
Christmas Evil looks like an Oscar winner compared to the movie. That and Ginger Dead Man. Just saying.
Anytime you can say something good about Christmas Evil, I'll take it.
Of course you will.
Yeah.
I might have to bump it up another star.
I know. I know.
Or half star. Natalie, who is played by Cindy Hines, this was a little girl in a movie, played Candace, the daughter in The Brood. So we have two Brood alumni.
Cool.
And I want to say I have a theory as to why this is. And the ambulance driver was played by William B. Davis, who is the cigarette smoking man on the X-Files. So any of y'all X-Files fans, because I love the X-Files, I'm just going to say.
I know. I got to watch it one day.
I'm not going to be fancy about that.
No. I thought you were going to say I'm not going to be friends with you until you watch it again.
No. But anyway, so that is just a little bit tidbits about the people. What else was I going to say? If you would know.
Your rating.
Oh, yeah, my rating.
I want to know your rating.
Okay. I'm having a hard time deciding between a 3 and a 3.5.
I actually liked it. There were some parts that I liked better than the book. There were some parts that I liked a lot less than the book. Like the beginning, and I'll give you the perspective of someone who only has seen the movie and was confused by something. So I watched this movie with Paul last night. He has never seen the movie and he's not read the book, of course, because he's not a reader really, except for sports books. Do those really even count? Anyway, sorry, just kidding. If you read sports books, all the more power to you.
It counts.
I know, I'm just being mean to Paul. Anyway, it totally counts. But so the point is, so the very beginning, do you remember they were on the roller coaster?
Yes.
And he gets that, like, he's like, oh, and it's before anything happens.
Yeah.
And so if they're going to allude to him already having this accident, but they don't show anything. So he was like, what were they trying to show there? And I'm like, well, maybe they'll show it later. He's supposed to have already had like an accident. Like he was supposed to already been concussed in his life.
Right.
Or whatever. And
it's correct.
And he's like, well, should you not told me that? I'm like, maybe they'll show it. I don't know. They never showed anything else. They just showed the accident happening.
Right.
So
I know.
He was confused. He's like, why put that in there if they're not going to explain it? He's like, that confused me.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was confused by
that.
And
that's why I think when you read a book, all those little gaps in a movie get filled in.
Yeah, like it didn't bother me because I knew.
I definitely like the book 100 times more than the movie. But I don't know. I'm struggling between a 3 and a 3.5 star. Halco, what did you put for a movie? I need to know.
I'm gonna give it.
Are you leaning to a 3 or a 3.5?
I think I'm gonna give it a 3.5. A 3.5 because it wasn't bad. I'd rewatch it in a couple of years.
Yeah, I mean it's not terrible, but again, I envision Sarah, being the Sarah played by Sarah Gadon, who did Sadie Dunhill in 11/22/63. It's like it's almost like the characters of Johnny and Sarah in the Dead Zone were my characters in the movie 11/22/63. I just couldn't help it. There was like
Yeah.
so many similarities.
There was a lot of
The
similarities.
audiobook being read by James Franco, who plays Jake Epping, and then the actress who played Sadie Dunhill. So that was my thought about that. But
Of all the celebrities I've heard read King's books, the narration for the audio, I think James Franco was my least favorite personally, only because it was decent, but I really loved. Well, I mean, I loved a whole bunch of different ones, but Michael C. Hall has to be at like the very top. Stephen King was even great for Needful Things because he
Mhm.
wrote it. He knows how to inflect the characters that he wrote. So lots of good stuff.
Well, I did go ahead and speed up James Franco a little bit after
He
you and I
was
had the
kinda slow.
conversation, and I think it read more like how I would normally listen to James Franco. So that did help a little bit. Not that it was
Sometimes
bad.
you
I
gotta
just
speed
felt,
it up.
yes, I just felt that it was a little bit better for like as far as like the action of the book as well.
Yeah.
Halco is putting a 3. So guess what? I'm putting a 3.
So you're matching Halco.
Well, no, because it's not bad, but in comparison to the book, it was okay. And I
Yeah.
gave the book a 4. So yeah, I mean, I'm on the fence with it. So
I'm giving it 3.5
I'm-
because I was entertained by
I'm
the
letting
movie.
Halco influence me, like James Franco.
Trying to think of an actor who might have been more like what Kat was hoping to see. Maybe Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Yeah, maybe
That could
because
maybe
he's an attractive guy, I think.
he
But
could
he's
be likable,
also and I think he can.
and he
He's
can
more,
be mean.
yes.
Yeah, I think that
Yeah.
could work.
That
That's a good
could.
idea.
Yeah.
By the way, it was a fun group watch. See? The sweater
Oh,
party. Yeah.
The thing about it is, I just envision Greg Stilson to be someone who is more like a low life and not as cultured, who kind of that's why he's made fun of, because they can't envision someone to be like, you can not be cultured
You're
and be
right.
charismatic, whereas Martin Sheen
kind
to
of
me,
sophisticated.
yes,
Yeah,
Martin
I see
Sheen
that.
is good looking and
He
sophisticated,
doesn't seem like a Bible salesman.
and he doesn't, and I don't know, it's just,
Philip Seymour Hoffman does fit that more.
yes,
Yeah,
just somebody
I didn't
else
really
different than that.
concentrate
I'm
on
not
that, but
saying
yeah.
I love Martin Sheen as an actor, and I think he did a phenomenal job as Greg Stilson. I was just a little startled by
Right.
it, I guess is the best way. Now, there are many differences. No carnival,
Which I thought was a huge thing.
which I think was really set the tone for the book, in my opinion.
Why did they redo the accident completely differently? Like, because Paul joked about this. He sees the truck bed coming towards him, and he's like, "Hey, oh, like he could have got out of the way."
And I would have been like, out of there.
I
I would have
know.
been like in the ditch.
He just freaking kept going, and he's like, "Let me just like run
It
into
would
the
have changed
side."
the whole entire movie
I know,
if
but
it was us in it.
well, one there was no taxi. He was driving. I didn't understand any of those
We've talked about this
changes.
before. If we were in a horror film, the film would literally have credits with music, and Kelsi and I would be walking down the street
And
then
alive.
and we would never do the stupid things that they do in scary movies. And the
Yes.
movie would literally be 5 minutes and
It's
maybe
true.
26 seconds because we'd have end credits.
Yes, because you can't judge what they do too harshly, or you wouldn't have a story. But at the same time, the accident, the way it happens in the book, makes sense. The accident, the way it happens in the freaking
No, does not.
movie, doesn't make sense to me. See this big bed
That's what
coming
I put.
towards you.
Car accident different. The relationship with Sarah to me was different. It wasn't as sweet as it was in the book.
Mhm.
He doesn't tell Sarah about the ring, which I think was very important for how she understands Johnny, like in the book. You know what I'm saying?
Well, he does say, "I'm gonna marry you."
Yeah, no, but what I'm saying is like when she comes to visit.
Just yeah.
Like,
He doesn't even
that
reveal
me
to her.
is huge. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like she doesn't know about his gift. Like that really does cause her also to be like still madly in love with him. Like she
Yeah.
never falls out of love with him in the book. That's why it was so sad at the end. You know, the
Yeah.
whole ending was so sad with her at the gravesite.
In
and
the movie,
everything.
she's like, "Yo, my shirt," and he's like, "Boobs."
I know, so
They
weird.
kept that part.
There was
but they
no
wouldn't keep-
fight between Johnny and Bannerman over Dodd, which I thought was a powerful scene.
Yes.
There was no shootout in the book with Mrs. Dodd. Like, what was that?
I know.
That
Why was that
crazy.
there? Why was that there? And
although-
Johnny got shot, and he's just fine.
Yeah,
like a
yes,
couple
really.
of months
Although I
later.
thought Colleen Dewhurst played a creepy Henrietta Dodd.
Yeah, she did.
No backstory on Frank Dodd. No backstory on Greg Stilson.
Yeah.
Sarah and Walt didn't work on Greg Stilson's campaign. I hated that
shoehorned in. Yeah.
Chris in the hockey game instead of a party. Chris was much younger in the movie than
Which
he
I thought was
was.
weird too. That was a weird
Well, it
change.
was Chris instead of Chuck,
Yeah.
kind of thing. No tumor at all in the movie, which I think does have impact.
Well, not only was he younger, but like the whole accident surrounding him and his friends were different.
Right.
One's a hockey team with ice, and one is a
And
fire
I
with a
hate
lightning
his
rod.
dad. I hated the dad.
I know, and
Chris's dad, because he went ahead and was going to put his child in danger. Thank God he had enough forethought to trust Johnny.
in the book, I like the way that the dad is way
Yes,
more.
yes, understand it. And then there's no mention of Johnny's accident as a boy.
Which I thought also was weird, and Paul was confused by that.
Yes, very weird.
So why even show the part on the roller coaster when he was
Yeah.
like, my head?
So I mean, I'm not saying that the movie was terrible, and I do think I would watch it again if I had nothing
if
else
I took
to
it
watch or
separately,
whatever.
apart from the book story, I would like it as a movie at 3.5.
Yes.
That's why I'm rating it. Apart from the book, I'm trying to separate it because it was entertaining. I mean, Paul said it was decent,
and that's why
as
I
a
do
movie
think
goer.
If I do think I probably watched the movie before I ever watched, or before I ever read the book.
The first time,
I just think, I think so, because I always remember it as being great and being Christopher Walken in it.
And now you're like changing your tune because you remember the book so much now.
And because I watched the TV show. Now, I know some people may not like the TV show, but I think it had pretty good ratings. It lasted for, I think, 6 seasons.
Tell us about the TV show.
Okay, so TV show started off in 2002, takes place in the 90s.
Oh.
Johnny actually has his accident as a boy in 1976. So it does propel us more into the future than the book. The book kind of it almost seemed like, and I think this is because I was thinking more about 11/22/63. I felt like it was more old fashioned than the 70s.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I just did. It just seemed more
old-fashioned.
It did
seem like that, yeah.
Okay, so it makes a point of saying that the TV show is based on characters from Stephen King's The Dead Zone. Johnny Smith is played by Anthony Michael Hall, who I absolutely adore. 16 Candles, The Breakfast Club, and Weird Science.
I actually have never seen Weird Science.
The Breakfast Club is like one of the top 5 movies that I love. I could watch it.
It's on her Letterboxd as one of her favorites.
Love it, love it, love it.
It's true.
I love it so much. That's when I was growing up, I was during that point in my life.
Good times for you.
Good time. Brings up good memories.
Yes.
Nicole DeBoer, I don't know if I'm saying that right, plays Sarah Bracknell Bannerman.
Bannerman.
She is married to Walt Bannerman. What? So they went ahead and combined Walt and Sheriff Bannerman together.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. This is something else that's going to blow your mind. Whoa. You ready for this?
Yeah, yeah.
She got pregnant with Johnny's baby.
What? I like how you're like,
but her husband does not know. And they raise it together because Johnny was supposed to be in a coma and never come out. And guess what? He's been in the coma for 6 years instead of 5.
But the husband doesn't know?
Has no idea. So when she comes
she had an affair with Johnny?
She and Johnny were like in one of the closets, the janitor's closet at school.
But like, how soon
kissing and smooching?
She must have got together with this other guy pretty soon.
I guess so.
I mean, the guy's not confused about the time.
I mean, unless I missed something. Maybe she got pregnant and he just claims as her own. I don't know.
Whoa, that's a big change.
Okay, so the mom is already dead when he wakes up.
Huh.
Mm-hmm. I already said about Sarah. The ratings are IMDb 7.4 out of 10. Ooh. Not bad. Rotten Tomatoes 77%, and it's a 4.3, I guess, out of 5 for the audience. How they rated that. It does start with the hockey game, 1976, and Johnny does get hurt, but he also talks about, somebody that's going to fall from the ice, and it almost alludes that Sarah and Johnny are friends. Growing up.
Oh, okay.
And in fact, when the boy falls into the ice and they save the boy or whatever, the little girl says, they must not have heard you or whatever, because he says something about that.
Oh.
So he's in coma for 6 years. The president is George W. Bush at the time instead of Nixon. I like the cinematography and how Johnny's inserted into the past. So you'll have him touch somebody and all of a sudden he's like an observer, like all the actions happening and Johnny is standing there and he sees from it. I liked it. I mean, it might be cheesy to some people,
No,
but I
I
like
mean,
that.
does he grip people's hands, like, so absurdly hard, like, in the
No,
movie?
no,
Okay,
no, no, no,
because
no,
that
no,
was a
no, no.
little over
And
the
he
top.
doesn't want anybody to touch him. He does not want anybody to touch him because he doesn't want to know, or especially like these people that he's starting to care about.
Yeah.
People don't treat Johnny like he's a pariah or something, like he's like like they do like in the book and in the
Yeah.
movie, like they don't look at him so terribly or whatever. um Walt Bannerman's combo, Sarah's baby is Johnny's, and his name is Johnny.
Oh, jeez.
I found it touching when the doctor finds his mother, who he thought was dead in the war. Um, and I don't really know what the war was, but his doctor is not Sam Wyzak. It's another doctor, and he's an Asian man. So whatever the conflict was, I don't think it was Vietnam, but I could be wrong. If y'all know, please tell me, because I wasn't 100% sure. But they think when he comes to visit, his uncle's there too, and he touches or shakes the uncle's hand or whatever, and that's when he reveals that your sister's alive, and he's like, no, she isn't. And so that's when they propel him into the time period of what happens was another person that got killed. I cried. I have to say, I teared up because when he goes to the village where his mom is and they lock eyes, it's like,
I
so
wanna rewatch
sad.
I wanna
I'm
watch
a
the
mom. If
show.
I was seeing my son that I never
Yeah.
thought I would ever see again, look, I'm getting
Yeah.
teary. So I
Crystal
thought that was
says,
scary.
making me wanna rewatch the show. I just remember really enjoying it.
Yes, I loved it. I enjoyed it. I would watch the rest of the season and of season one and then go from there,
Yeah.
once I watch it. But I mean, he just plays, in my opinion, and I don't know anybody that's seen the show, I just feel like Johnny plays more of how I envision Johnny in the book.
The Michael C. Hall version. I
Yes,
mean, the Michael Hall version.
yes, yes.
Anthony Michael Hall
Anthony
version.
Michael Hall.
Why am I saying Michael C. Hall? That's funny.
'Cause you love Michael
I
C.
do.
Hall. But I liked his version better. I think just because I revisited the book, then watch Walken, and then watching Anthony
So
Michael
that
Hall.
was the right,
Yes,
I
in my
guess,
yes.
order to do
So
it
I'm
in.
excited because now I want to check out, like I'll probably rewatch the episode again, because I was focusing on trying to take notes and
Right.
stuff as well.
I'm kind of excited to check it out
Um,
now. I wish I could have gotten to it. So if you're just joining a little bit late, I did not get to watch the show. She did get to watch the first episode, so I'm behind.
And he has a really great relationship with his physical therapist. I think his name is Bruce. And so that's going to be like his best friend. And they do things. And like he's trying to convince Johnny, let's go, like try to use your powers to like
Right.
win some money or something, kind of
Oh.
thing. But he also, what's going to end up happening, from what I gather from just reading the synopsis, is he's going to team up with Sarah's husband,
Oh,
and
to
they're going to
solve
solve
stuff.
crimes. In fact, at the end, there's a part's giving me goosebumps where one of the nurses, he sees a vision of her because he touches the cake. Somehow, when he takes the cake, the goodbye cake of him getting out the hospital,
Mhm.
he sees a vision of her being attacked. And it has to be the Frank Dodd character, I'm assuming.
Oh
And
my
so
god.
he's like, hurry, call her. And so he calls, and she's trying to run to get into her house, and she slams the door. And I don't think she gets to the phone in time, but then the camera pans and there's boots, the boots you see in the vision. And then the boots turn away and walk off.
It's Dodd.
I don't know.
I'm guessing it's Dodd. I mean, that's just
I've
me.
given myself goosebumps, gotten teary eyed,
And laugh.
and I'm laughing at myself.
Well, you were laughing throughout the stream too, but yes.
Oh.
I think I'm just gonna predict that in the show at some point, Johnny's gonna find out that that's his kid.
He does already know.
Oh, he knows.
Yes,
Okay.
because what ends up happening, I'm sorry, I'm spoiling this for everybody, but we did say we were going to have spoilers.
It's true.
She goes to visit him, and there's this one scene that's really sad. She finds out, and she goes and she's putting lipstick on in the car, and all of a sudden she starts breaking down and crying, and she just pulls away because I guess she can't, like, they told her that she would never
See him
see him
again.
again. Like, this would not happen,
And it did,
whatever.
and now he's awake.
And that's one of the things, I have to go back and watch that scene to kind of see the timeline with her. It's the way she said it makes it seem like he doesn't know that it's Johnny's baby. So maybe she had the baby, but he doesn't know it's Johnny's baby. that maybe she had a baby by somebody else. I
Oh, I
don't know. I'm
see.
not. I got to go back. That's what I'm saying. I have to go
Yeah.
back and watch the first episode again because I was taking notes. But when they actually see each other, he is really emotional and almost really like doesn't kind of want to hear all this stuff. And when she says his name is Johnny and he's yours, you can just see like, oh my God. And she's like, well, I guess now I'll tell him, and he's like,
Oh,
no.
yeah.
He's like, no, don't tell him.
Wow.
Which I think is a bit, I mean, that
That's a
just
big
shows
deal.
you
Yeah,
Johnny's character,
it does.
don't you think?
Wow. I want to watch the show now.
Yeah, I
Man.
mean, I just think they did really well with, the performances. He does at least. And like I said, I'll be curious to see how if you think it's too cheesy with him going into the scenes. But the
Yeah, I mean,
scenes are
I'm sure
really
I'll like it.
nice. I
I
like
don't
it.
think anything could be more corny than how Walken was doing it with
Well,
holding people in a death grip
I'm gonna tell you what though. I think the death grip I think he did kind of have the death grip a little bit, somewhat
in the
with some
book.
people in the book, not with everybody, with some people.
Well,
But I could not stand that weaselly little reporter in the movie
I
who
hated
was
him.
so like, why don't you tell us the future and like and all this stuff. And when Christopher Walken brings, Johnny brings up the whole suicide with the sister, all of a sudden he wants to back off and then make him look like I was like, you know
I
what?
hated that guy.
I
Yeah.
hope I
That,
hope something really bad happens to you. Do that
that's,
to my Johnny Smith.
don't do it to Johnny. That's great. All right, guys. Well, we've had a great time talking Dead Zone. If there's any other things you want to drop about your opinions about the movie, book, or the show, drop them in the comments below. Ratings, etc., whatever you want to say. But
Yes.
we do want to take this time to remind you that the fun ain't over because we're in December and December's book is The
The
Shining.
Shining.
And we
Yes.
both already read it. So it's a
Yes.
reread for both of us. I'm going to listen to it on audio for the first time as my reread method. And I'm very excited. And Kat's actually going to try with
Yes,
audio.
I'm gonna do audio only because I told Kelsey I don't like audio. But I think I figured out how audio can help me, and it's with rereading. And I got this idea only because I follow an author, Gretchen Rubin, who wrote The Happiness Project. And she mentioned because she and her sister have this podcast together, and the sister does audiobooks all the time to help her read books.
Mm-hmm.
And Gretchen Rubin feels like I do, like it's hard to listen to it and concentrate and really get to comprehend it when you're just listening. I'm more of a visual tactile person.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, she said she discovered for her how she can listen to audiobooks, and that is by she likes to read children's literature like I do. And she said by rereading children's literature or books she's already read, she can listen in audio because she knows the gist of the story. And so it kind of keeps her engaged a little more than if she was trying to listen to something for the first time. And I think that is true because even though I know that there were a couple of parts that I missed in the Dead Zone, listen, because I either had to go back and reread or look for it or whatever. And I did pass my AR test, my accelerated reader test, but I did miss two. I just think it does help if you already have a sense of what happened in the story. So I'm going to try it with The Shining and see. So far, I started it, and so far I've been engaged. I actually listened to it on the way here.
Oh, good.
So I got started with it, and I would recommend anybody who's reading The Shining again that you might want to pick up the sequel if you haven't already and read Doctor Sleep afterwards.
Like right
Because
away. It's a
yes,
good thing to connect.
yes, because you do have reference to a lot of things that happened in The Shining, and that's what I did when I reread it the last time. I reread it so I could read Doctor Sleep because it had been so long. I wanted to make sure. And so that's just a suggestion if you want to end up putting Doctor Sleep on your TBR.
Yeah, it is good to read them
in
closer together
2023.
because they do connect and have references, of course. The Doctor Sleep to the
Find your
bots.
love in your city.
We will block those
What is
bitches.
that?
Get out of here.
Oh,
It's,
goodness.
get out of here.
Oh, look, Halka already started too.
Yay.
And it's your first time?
It's
Oh, I'm
awesome.
so excited
Hope you
for
enjoy
you.
it.
It's a treat. It is a treat.
Betty says it's so great. This was so great. Thanks for all the hard work. Can't wait to scope out the books you recommended. Looking forward to The Shining.
Yes.
Yeah. So, but this is the important part. So we'll be reading The Shining, but we'll be watching the Kubrick version, which I believe is from 1980. I think. And then we're
Mhm.
watching the Stephen King miniseries version,
Yes.
and that's hard to find. I had to buy it on DVD. I'm gonna see if Kat wants to watch it with me or how we want to do it. We'll
Mhm.
see. And then we're going to be watching, because it's the 10th anniversary of Room 237. It's a documentary about the making of the Kubrick movie. A documentary in the sense that all these people come together and there's all these absurd theories of like, what does this mean? Why did Kubrick
Right.
put this in there? Because there's so many differences
Yes,
from
yes.
the book into the Kubrick version. So it's a fun little, it's something I want to add in because I think Kat will enjoy it and get a kick out of it. I just think it'll be fun for me to revisit it because I remember thinking it was zany and also
Mhm,
interesting just to
mhm.
see some of the theories.
Right.
And it's the 10-year anniversary of that documentary. So it kind of all
And
fits
it's
in.
important to know that we will be doing our Shining, chat in January, and aren't we gonna do a wrap up of the Year of King
I just don't
also?
know when that's gonna be, if we should also do it in January or if we should push it, because I have a lot of end of the year
Mhm.
content I gotta push out in January. So I don't know if we wanna do it in February or if that's dragging too much into the new year. But yeah, we kinda wanna do like a tier ranking and also
Yeah.
like talk about not only a ranking of all the, I don't know if you wanna do all the Kings we've read or just the Kings we've read this year.
Yeah, maybe this year
Yeah,
because it's kinda hard to compare.
books you haven't revisited in a
Right,
while.
right.
But I was thinking, can you form a top 5 of all
Uh,
this year and overall?
it's so hard with King
I
to
know,
say
it's
what would
different
be in your top.
things.
And we really did choose a lot of awesome books this
We
year,
really
in my
did,
opinion,
because
and
we had
short
a I
stories.
gotta give Cat props because I had not read many of the King classics, and so I felt like, how can I do this King project and read a whole bunch of obscure King, but then not have read Misery? Not have
Right.
read The Dead Zone, not have read Cujo, which I guess Cujo's not technically an essential,
Well,
but
and it was
it,
wonderful because the
you
thing
know
about it is I had not read any of the books that I had already read. I had not read them in a long
so
time.
it worked out
Yeah, because
pretty
I have
well.
been actually steadily reading more of his new stuff, than revisiting,
Right. It's
old
hard to
stuff.
make yourself reread sometimes.
Mhm.
So sometimes you need a good excuse. Like I found that if there's a project coming up, like a movie or a sequel, like a book sequel, then you want to reread the
Mhm.
first book
Yes.
or reread the book if it's being made into a movie, etc.
And also too, and The Dead Zone is a perfect example of that. When you read a book for the first time, your feelings for it change when you read it again at a
It's
different stage in
true.
your life.
It
It
is
really
true.
does. It really does because you have a lot going on socially that changes from the time you read something. And also your age, you
Yeah, it
know?
just affects where you are in your life. I
Mhm.
mean, your mindset, it's affected by a lot, I think. So yeah, rereading's never a bad thing, but I'm still glad that you were game for it. All
I
right.
loved it.
Love that documentary, Room
So
237. So
good.
looking forward to this. The theories are wild. They are. I can't wait to see what you have to say about the theories. I'm excited. All right, guys. So that's what we have coming up. Stay tuned to my community tab. I will release the date we're going to be doing the stream for The
Yes.
Shining there. Also to my Discord. Also, Kat has a channel now. In case you
Yay!
didn't know, it's Kat's Novel Adventures. Kat, like, what kind of stuff have you been releasing on your brand new channel?
So far I have book hauls, I have some TBRs for the month. I have my participation in the readathon for Christmas Evil. What else? Wrap ups.
You may
Um,
have a tag
I may have a
video
tag video coming
soon.
up, and I do have a little surprise video. I don't want to say what it is, but it's not really related to books. I mean, I guess I could kind of relate it to books, but I think it's related to Christmas. Let's just put it that way, and winter.
Yay.
But it's just something I collect.
So she is tagged in the description below. Please, please go sub to her channel. We want to support her, get her channel going strong.
Yeah. Join me on my adventures
Yes,
because I'm having
exactly.
lots of adventures for sure.
Especially because if you like her stuff with me, you're going to like her stuff by herself. So we're both
And
Capricorns, as we've said
aw, and
before.
Crystal is so sweet.
Aw,
Thank you,
I love
Crystal. I
Crystal.
appreciate
She's the
it.
best.
Yes, and I have to say I have been welcomed into the BookTube community very warmly, and everybody's been very supportive, and I'm loving it. I'm having so
Yay!
much
I'm
fun.
so glad to hear that. I love the booktube community. So great. Such a wonderful community.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So lots of fun stuff coming up for both me and me and Kat together as well. It's like separately and together. So until next time, though, what can they do?
Keep on killing it.
Keep on killing it. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.